So I received about 2 messages. Yeah, I think 2 from 2 Peugeot users. They claimed anyway. That was after I uploaded my POV review of my Peugeot 406 V6. And in that review, according to them, they said they watched the review and it was quite interesting. But they now said there was something I mentioned, while I was driving and describing the vehicle. And I mentioned one of the vehicle specifications, which is variable ratio steering. And that I claim that all Peugeot 406 V6 come with that variable ratio steering, different from the conventional or the traditional power steering. So they said that I claim that you can actually turn them with 2 fingers, that they are they can be very, very soft and light when the vehicle is stationary, unlike the other ones. While in motion, it becomes harder or heavier to turn. While stationary or low speed, you can turn them very smoothly or even with 2 fingers. And that is not the case in their own Peugeot 406 V6, that their own feels very heavy even when the vehicle is stationary or is not moving and the engine is running. And they were like, am I sure that my own car is not different? Maybe it's a customized 406, and that's why mine have this kind of setting. That it could be that not all Peugeot 406 V6 have that variable ratio steering. Now, I'm doing this video just to explain further and probably show you guys that I meant what I said. I think that was in 1986. Peugeot introduced the system that I mentioned in that video, which is the variable ratio steering. It was introduced, to the best of my knowledge, introduced in Peugeot 505 V6 and the Peugeot 505 Turbo, the petrol turbo. What's the name? N9TE or NTE9 something. I've forgotten the name of that turbocharged petrol engine in Peugeot 505. So these 2 vehicles, okay, I'm not so sure about the turbo. No, I think he has it. It's possible though, but I know it was introduced in 1986, starting with Peugeot 505 V6. It's possible, I don't remember anymore. It's possible that the 505 Turbo, that phase 2 in 1986 has it as well. I don't remember, but I'm very, very sure of the Peugeot 505 V6. Now, that's the variable ratio steering. That was when Peugeot started using it in all their V6 vehicles. And at that time, the 505 V6, the steering works with the speedometer cable. At that time, they were using a speedo cable, not the electronic type that we have in the modern Peugeot cars now, or the newer Peugeot cars. So it works with there's a sensor attached to the cable. As the cable is turning, it's now working with the steering, the variable ratio steering, which has its own ECU. Yes, the steering has its own ECU or module that controls it. So I think from even 605 V6, I'm not sure about 604 V6 or 504 V6, but I'm very sure, at least I know 505 V6 had that system. Now, going forward, the 406 also has the same system, except that in this case, it was no longer the speedometer cable, but still it works with the vehicle speed. So in this case, it now works with the vehicle speed sensor, otherwise known as transducer. That's from 1995. They introduced it there, and which also has its own ECU. I'm talking about the variable ratio cell, has its own ECU, up till, at least I know up to 2010. Like for example, from 407 or even 406, the later ones like the 2003, 2004, they started using the ABS wheel sensor to control the speedometer. So that same ABS wheel sensor also works with the variable ratio steering on Peugeot 407, 607 phase 2 or V6. Yeah. So yes, so it's standard. It's standard on Peugeot V6. At least I'm very sure from 505. So if you have a Peugeot, whatever Peugeot model it is, likewise, I believe the Citroen models as well and the DS that have, because I know DS 6, right? DS6 has that this thing as well, yeah. It has ES9A V6 engine. So if you have any modern Peugeot car with the V6 engine, it has a variable ratio steering. It's not just my own Peugeot 406 V6. And yes, you can turn it with 2 fingers. I'm going to demonstrate it here to show you. With the vehicle stationary, you can do that. It's very, very soft. Now, if you're having issue, if your own is not doing that, if your own is not turning very smoothly or is very heavy when it's stationary and it's a V6, one of the things that can cause that is your ATF, the power steering fluid, which is not, can also be an ATF. Peugeot says, even from their 505, 1986, yes, not just the newer ones, even from 1986, every 2 years, drain out the power steering fluid and put in a new fluid. Every 2 years. I'm not even talking about 406 or 505 for this. Even the Peugeot 508, the ones they are still producing this very moment. At least I know the one they produced like last year or thereabouts, they still tell you drain every 2 years the power steering fluid. If you don't do that, what happens is over time your steering will start becoming very heavy. It will no longer be easy or light to steer. So yeah, it will also affect the traditional or the conventional power steering. Likewise, it will affect the variable ratio steering too, irrespective that that one has electronic control that makes it lighter. So if you are having that issue where your steer is a V6 and yet it's feeling very heavy when the vehicle is stationary or at low speed, now you know why. It means probably since you've owned that car or you don't follow the maintenance schedule, changing the ATF, because Peugeot use ATF. Of course, it's not just all ATF. They have recommended ones. For example, 406 like total ATF 8042, I think. Likewise, 407 and the rest. So if you use the even 607 as well, 8042, all these are the recommended. So if is it 8043? Anyway, if you don't change it, it's going to feel heavy. And of course, it's not even good for the entire system. It could even affect 1 or 2 components on your steering and it will fail over time. It's supposed to have fresh. People always think that, it's only your engine, or probably if it's automatic engine and the automatic gearbox that is supposed to be changing the fluid. Even your brake fluid, you are expected to change it every 2 years as well. So, but here I'm talking about your power steering fluid. If you don't change it every 2 years, you're going to have this issue. The longer it stays there, the harder it becomes. Even when you change it, let's assume you change it this year and 2 years later, or before it gets to the next 2 years, you realize that it won't be as soft as or easy as it used to be before it even gets to that second year. So, now you know why. Then there could be other reasons. Right? There could be other reasons why there is not fault. But one thing I've known about this variable ratio system, variable ratio steering system is that they are indestructible in the sense of the electronic part don't give issues. For example, that my Peugeot 406 is like 19 years old now. I've never, apart from the fluid that I've changed like 2 times now, I've drained it, put it fresh fluid, that's why it's always soft. I've never touched any component on that steering system, not even once. I've not touched anything. I'm talking about including the tire, anything you can think of, they are still there. To show you how durable and reliable that system is. No leakage, nothing. It's just there. So I'm going to demonstrate now to show you. Okay, now this is Peugeot 607 V6, you know, and it has that same system, like I said, variable ratio system, to show you that it's not just only 406 V6 that have it. So I'm going to start the car, and then we'll see if I'm telling the truth or not. Alright, so the engine is running now, and as you can see, it's a little bit softer now. Now, let me use my 2 fingers. Can you guys see it? Can you see it? This is 2 fingers, so can you see it now? So I'm not lying, guys. If you can't do it this or your this thing or your V6, as long as V6, guy, your system has a problem. Start with the least, and that is draining your steering fluid. If you don't know how to do it, bring it to me. You have to do everything out, not matter of just draining the one on the container, the steering fluid container. No, you have to drain everything out, replace with new one, and you have to do it carefully, because if you don't do it well, you introduce air in the system, which will damage your pump. Or in the process of doing it, and if you starve the power steering pump of fluid, it could damage it. So you need to find an expert or someone that understands how to do it for you. Yeah, so it's very smooth, like I explained in that video. The variable, what it does is, the lower the vehicle speed, the softer it is to steer the wheel, you know. Then as the vehicle start gaining speed, probably as from 90 kilometers per hour, then the steering now becomes very heavy. For example, this 607 V6 phase 2, this is phase 2, right? From that 90 or thereabouts, see, to turn this thing, you have to put, you may end up turning it with your one hand, but you put some pressure. It won't be soft anymore. It will now look as if you are trying to move a drum. Some people may say, no, why would you do that? Guys, if you're on very high speed, you understand why your steering needs to be very heavy, because at that time it's very, very sensitive. So if you turn it so quickly, you could throw you out of the road. So you need a vehicle that has a system, or they design both the suspension and this is to make the car to be, very, very not heavy per se, but stand on the ground, so that it will take it a lot of. It's going to be very difficult for the car to slip off or flip up and or lose control. So that's the good thing about the variable steering, and that's one thing you enjoy when you buy a V6 Peugeot car. So yeah, as it is like this, of course you can do it like this in other 4-cylinder Peugeot cars or every other vehicle, but when it comes to V6, it may be very hard to do it on other vehicles like this. That's a good thing about variable systems. So I hope this explains that, because for people who are having issues with theirs or thinking that I lied because I didn't demonstrate it in the video, now you can see I'm not lying. You can see the engine is running, right? You can see, you can hear this engine sound. All right, so I'll talk to you guys some other subjects.